A lot of time in the evening when I just want to get away from everything and probably work some frustration off, I just come to the driving range. A lot of folks have asked me about, okay, how do you make general officer, or how do you make 4-star general? And I said, stop trying to be.
Well, let me break it down to you so you can understand it. So we got 2 rows of cotton here, and we're gonna chop it out to the end. He's gonna be to the end of the row first out of everybody in the field. Now, we had a few in the field, had the same speed, doing the same thing. When they got to the end of the road, they went and got their water and sat down and waited for you to get there. General Newton would turn around and come back and meet you. That's the guy. And I think that's what the Air Force saw in him.
There are a lot of things that are, that are maybe not right, maybe not good about our country, but there are a lot of things that are right and that are good about our country. So that's the part you want to hang your hat on. Well, these have really grown really fast. Yeah, and there's some beans in there, some okras in there, beets are in there as well. Squash is way down on the other end. My parents acquired this property in the 50s, and we grew practically everything we needed to survive. They worked it as a team. Both my mom worked like right along beside us out in the field as well. You have to think about the struggle that they had to go through only because they were black. Much of it was just petty kinds of things. Being the people that they were, they figured out how to maneuver around it, over it, or through it. My father, particularly, he saw no boundaries. He figured out, if I need to get over there, I'm gonna get there. If he needed to get to that point, that's where he was gonna go. I didn't really think about this so much as I was growing up. I can't ever remember a time, not one, that my parents would say, well, you don't have to like them because they're white. I didn't realize how important that was until I was well away from home. Much of it came when I was in the Air Force. You want to throw that in the house or in the car?
Lester is child number 9, I'm child number 10, Lloyd, General Newton, child number 8. Right above us right here is an airways. And he would be here in the yard. There's a creosote post. He'd stand on that post and watch the jets fly over.
As a young African-American kid, you never envisioned that you would have the opportunity, in this case, that I would have the opportunity to actually fly an airplane. Matter of fact, we thought about it a little bit of, well, maybe I'll get a chance, I'll grow up and I'll be adult and I'll make enough money and then I can get a ride in one. Never thought at all that, okay, well, why don't you grow up and become a pilot so you can pilot an airplane? That was just a bridge too far. Down on US 17, which was the main highway between Maine to Miami, went right through our little town of Ridgeland. So on Saturdays, we would be in Ridgeland and you would see lots of uniformed folks either, catching rides or just in town. I had a cousin who was in the United States Army. His name is Lee Newton, and I was just always in awe of Lee. When Lee would come home, everybody in the whole community would know, seemed like immediately, did you hear Lee is home? And so I wanted to grow up and be like Lee in the uniform. So initially I thought I would be coming into the Army because I didn't really know anything about the Air Force at that time. Then later on, when I was in high school, an Air Force recruiter came by, and I almost came in the Air Force immediately after high school.
Fig was the type of student, although he was an honest student, you could ask him a question or sit down and talk to him and relate to him, and he communicated. He had that people person kind of persona about him. You could talk to him about anything.
He can walk in a room and make you feel like the most important person there.
Hi. Do you need to come in and get something? Oh, come on. These are 2 of our absolutely outstanding folks who help to teach our folks. Tell these guys about where you're from and tell them a little bit about you.
Your parents were very supportive of you, and my parents were very supportive and loving parents, same as yours. I think that's one of the keys. The other key, I think, was teachers.
Yes.
You know, the McAllisters, the Johnny Hill, those kinds of people.
Absolutely.
And they would tell you when you're right, when you're wrong, and what you needed to do.
Sure. When I was in high school, an Air Force recruiter came by. I was just that close to doing it. And then one of my high school instructors suggested that, well, maybe you want to go to college. You can still go in the military, but at least now you have a degree, something to fall back on. And plus the fact it gives you different options. You can still go in enlisted or you can go in as an officer. The environment here is usually folks walk in and they are a little bit surprised because it doesn't look like your typical brick and mortar schools. It looks much more like a different kind of building. And again, that was intentional, it was by design. I've always been big on education because I find that is the one tool that any individual can have, and their life is almost unlimited. After being at Tennessee State, I discovered they had this aviation program, so I changed my major out of mechanical engineer into aviation, and my whole world changed. Did I meet obstacles in that earlier years to become a fighter pilot? Absolutely. I had come from an all-black high school, and now I went to school at Tennessee State, which was 99.9% black. So I'd never really lived in that environment before. But I can remember walking into the class those first few months after I was there, where you'd go in and you kind of said to yourself unconsciously, gee whiz, I am only, the only black guy that's in here, and now sit down to take a test while you're thinking about that was just a huge barrier. A number of folks had gone through or attempt to go through flight school from Tennessee State that didn't make it. And I just felt like, I just got to make it through this. I've got to be one of those ones that got their wings. I had this instructor who, in my mind, Dave Langell felt like I shouldn't be there. The instructor would have 4 or 5 students at a table, and that instructor was responsible for taking all of us out and training us how to fly. It was a very distinct difference when it was time for him to take me out to fly. He'll sit down with all of the other guys and they're briefing and debriefing, and there's this cordial exchange that is going on. But when it came to briefing for me, immediately his attitude changed every single time, to the point that my other table mates noticed that. And I can remember one of them saying to me, why does he treat you that way? My response was, I don't know. I was in San Francisco with a group of my classmates before we left, quote, quote, to go to the war. Day of departure was the 4th of April, 1968. That afternoon, about mid-afternoon San Francisco time, the guys all gathered around me and started saying, Figo, we're just so sorry. And so I go, what happened? What? And said, you haven't heard, Dr. King got shot. I mean, the whole world changed there for me, The flight was taking off at midnight. So I toiled with that from then until the time I got on that airplane about whether I should leave to go to Vietnam. I'd made a commitment to the government, to the military, to the Air Force that I said I was going to go and do this, and I should. And so that's what I did. And today I don't regret that decision at all. Now it's time for me to go out on my first mission. Well, my first mission is over North Vietnam, over Route Pac 2. And we make our first dive bomb pass, and we pull off. And Rex says to me, he said, you see that flag? And I'm looking around and I'm going, what flag? He said, you see all those little puffs out there? He said, yeah. He says, that's 37 millimeter flag, Oh my goodness. And there were these little puffs all around the airplane, seemingly. So that got my attention. Am I gonna get hit today on my very first mission and get shot down? I stayed there for a year, flew 269 combat missions, and flew 79 of them over North Vietnam. So through this whole process of being in Vietnam, I'm trying to build enough hours to be able to apply for the Thunderbirds. It was in 1972 when I reached the requirements for applying for the team. They accepted my application, and I got narrowed down to be in the semifinalists. And they said, okay, We've evaluated it and you didn't make the finalist. So I came back and said, aha, now I have some idea what this is all about. You know, I've gone through some experience with the team. I got a chance to fly in the backseat of a Thunderbird aircraft, and it was a thrill. It was everything I thought it would be and even more. And so I applied the second time, and I made the finalist. So they said, okay, stay on. We want you to travel with us back to Nellis. So I did. He said, we'll call you, let you know the outcome. I get a call like 2 o'clock in the morning and says, I'm sorry you didn't make it this year, but be sure and apply again next year. So shucks, you know, this is now 2 times. Sure enough, one of the guys who had made the team the year before called me up and said, hey, I haven't seen your application yet. Are you going to put it in? I said, well, I've been thinking about it. He said, put the application in. So I said, okay. So I put my application in again, made the semifinalist, made the finalist, and they said, okay, go home, we'll call you. So I'm out one day flying with Chuck to Bellevue, and we got this call from the squadron that you have a call from the Thunderbirds, why don't you come on back in? And so I said to Chuck, hey Chuck, I've had this call 2 times before, and it wasn't a good ending and a good experience, so I don't see any need to rush back in. So we finished the mission, and then finally I got back in, and we were in the debrief. Phone call comes in from the Thunderbirds for me, answered, this is Captain Newton, and says, Fig, this is Roger Parrish. Roger Parrish was the commander of the Thunderbirds at that time. And he said, congratulations, you're a member of the 1975 team. I don't remember hearing anything else that Roger had to say after that, because I was just so excited about the fact that I'd just been selected to be a member of the world's premier Air Force Thunderbirds. Oh yeah, there were a number of quote, my very good friends who said, exact words, Newton, why do you keep bumping your head against this wall? They're not going to ever select you to be a pilot on this team. They've never had a black guy as a pilot on this team. They're not about to select you now. And certainly I could have accepted that and say, yeah, maybe you're right, and just give up. But that wasn't what Fig Newton traditionally would do. Yeah, I had this dream, but it was like I never woke up, you know, because the dream kept going. It kept taking me to places that was even better than the place where I had dreamed of initially. I wasn't trying to be a general officer, wasn't trying to be a 4-star for sure. I just tried to do my job. All of us have some kind of idea. All of us have some kind of thought about something in life. You bumping the difficulties? This is not about giving up. It needs to be, how do I double down? So that dream that I had, that started way back in 1964 while I was at Tennessee State, came true in November 1974 at Nellis Air Force Base. The rest of it's a bit of history. One of my better hits on this hole, that one's right in the center of the club, right where I wanted it. This is America, let's just remember that.